All right, welcome to another episode of God Yay or Nay. I'm here with Adrian Logan. Adrian, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for inviting me, man. I appreciate it very much. This is my first podcast I've ever been on, so it'll be a good experience for me.
Oh, this is your first one? Get out of here.
Yeah.
All right, man. Honestly, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. It's a great channel, and I guess like self-discovery is kind of like the theme you put on the top of your YouTube banner, and just kind of
Yeah.
like saying that. But why don't you tell my audience a little bit about your YouTube channel and like kind of like your how you got into it?
Yeah. So, in regards to the topic of self-discovery, I chose that just because in the beginning, when I was making a channel, you're trying to follow what everyone else is doing that you're looking up to. So you think that you have to come from a position of being somewhat of a guru, teaching people like what you learn and your insights and stuff. And in the earlier days of my channel, I used to do that, and then I realized it doesn't feel authentic to me because I don't view myself as being having experiences or a certain understanding that other people don't have. I'm just another person experiencing life, sharing my views and my experience. And for me, it's just more about understanding myself and documenting it, and like talking to a friend. And I've been trying to do this more and more. Is look at the camera as if it's one of the people that I'm cool with, and I'm sharing stories, sharing experiences, sharing insights I learned from a book, and just my opinions on it. And I feel like that direction served me much more in my fulfillment of the direction I'm going. And I found that the feedback from the people that were watching, it was more of a, I can totally relate to that. I've experienced that too. We feel the same way, as opposed to, oh, you're teaching me so much. Because I don't feel like I'm on a pedestal, and I want to be like just another student of life talking to other students of life, if that makes sense.
Hell yeah. No, it makes complete sense. Honestly, like I feel like I'm in the same boat a little bit because I these kind of topics are exactly what I believe in. And I bet you me and you probably listen to a lot of the same kind of people who might be in that guru or some sort of teacher type. And
Yeah.
it's true when you get to like so much life experience and stuff, like eventually you can be that kind of person. But to start out like that, it does seem like
Right.
inauthentic, right?
Yeah. And I think, Gary Vaynerchuk, he said one line. He said like document, don't create. And so I started just documenting it. So a lot of the things I've been going through, when I made videos about like minimalism, I did videos about water fasting, I did videos about like just individual things and challenges and experiences I'm putting myself through to develop and gain a deeper understanding of who I am. And I just document it. And
Mhm.
that's been a kind of a guiding line for me, is just to document, not create, even though inevitably I am creating.
Yeah, honestly, that's a great idea, though. I like that. And hey, I've had a few people talk about Gary Vee too, so I think he's pretty inspirational to a lot of people. But it's true, when you document, it's almost like you go through that process of self-discovery for the second time. So,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
you do something which gives you a little bit of that discovery, and then you do it again, which kind of like pronounces it inside yourself, right?
Yeah, sharing the information or sharing my experiences, like to get to the point of doing that, I have to do a lot of self-reflection. And so it's like I'm learning through sharing, and it helps me a lot.
No, I love that. And all right, there's a few things I want to talk about when it comes to
Sure.
self-discovery. And you just brought up that minimalist list thing. So that is actually something you do highlight quite a bit in your channel. Can you maybe describe to my audience like what this minimalist lifestyle is, and to you at least, and like kind of some of the stuff you do incorporated?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and this is not going to be a textbook definition, but for me, when I think about minimalism, it's separating myself from the assets and materials in my life. And I've never been the type of person that was big on cars or showing out with the like nice clothes or brands and etc. But I see people do that, and it's like the negative, it has a negative appeal to me, but that motivates me to do the opposite. So for me, I'm just very much against putting too emotion into items. I
Hmm.
don't, I'm not, some people, their whole value comes from what the world perceives they have.
Of course,
and
yeah, yeah.
and for me, I've been always so much more appreciative of like individuals, who they are. And when people don't express that enough, and they're so focused on putting their items and their materials and with the things they have up front, it's almost like people are doing a disservice to themselves. And as part of that self-discovery kind of journey I'm on, I don't want to do that disservice to me. And so for me, minimalism is just looking around at what you have and asking yourself if it brings you value. Is there value in this? Or is there only value in having it? Right. So for me, like I one of my videos was just me throwing all these clothes I've had from 15 years ago back in like the early 2000s, and it was just like throwing like bags and bags away. I didn't throw it away, I donated it, but just getting rid of it. And it's hard because you have such an emotional an emotional attachment to these like these jumpsuits I had from back in like 12th grade, and the memories I have associated with it. But it wasn't serving me because it's all up here. And so things that were important to me that I want to remember, I took pictures of, I took videos of, but I got rid of it. And for me, decluttering my environment helped me to declutter my mind, and it makes me, it just feels cleaner. It allows me to breathe easier when everything you have is purposeful and intentional. Does that make sense?
No, it makes 100% sense, man, because like I get that completely. Like you said, you declutter your environment, you declutter your mind. It's kind of like an empty and a little bit, and like that's like kind of why we meditate and stuff. Like the clear, empty
Exactly, right.
mind, you're more open, and like yeah, then you see the stuff around you. If it has purpose, if it has value, that like it actually like it even kind of like how you always talk about creating a vision, creating like your like what you want to go after. If like all the stuff around you is according to that vision, according to that kind of thing,
Right.
like I can see how like everything has purpose and value to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's not to say that I don't go when I go traveling, I don't pick up what I would consider as souvenirs. But I'm not picking up the souvenir for the souvenir. Like I'm not picking up a keychain just because it says like Nicaragua on it. I went to Costa Rica and I brought back a hammock. You know what I mean? Like I use it, it has a purpose, but also is a reflection of an experience I had in another time in another country, right?
Yeah, I
This
love
is
that.
being intentional with what I'm purchasing and what I'm holding on to.
And so can maybe you tell us like about a few things that you might have gotten rid of that actually really helped besides your clothes? I know that was one. Anything else you want to share?
Like in regards to like what was it? Like what?
Like if any kind of like items or things in your life that you did get rid of, like in this
Oh,
minimalist
okay, yeah.
lifestyle that did actually really help.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have a little like well, I'll tell you right now, the one thing I'm battling with getting rid of is I have like a kind of like a trophy case, a bunch of like ribbons and medals and trophies from basketball and track and all that stuff. And like it has a lot of emotional value to me, but I like feeling like I can pack up and move at any time. And I want to eventually get to the point where I'm backpacking. And as much as there's a lot of memory and emotion connected to these things, I don't feel like I need it anymore. But it's still here. And I'm working through the process of getting rid of that. Because prior to that, I've never owned a lot of possessions just from being intentionally frugal, but that intentional frugality turned into minimalism. And so aside from clothes, there's still a bunch of little trinkets. You know, you have like a drawer full of just random
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that had meaning to you. You know, I got rid of all that stuff. You know, I used to have like letters that someone maybe I was dating 20 years ago, like when I was young, wrote, and it's very like, you know, like 12-year-old writing it.
Ha ha
Like
ha.
I held on to that because it had a certain level of meaning, and then I got rid of it because it allows you to move on from the past. And, you know, it's all up here. I still have it in your subconscious mind, but I got rid of it.
That's interesting. And honestly, the medal one actually is pretty interesting, especially because like if you have all these like medals and trophies and stuff like that from when you're an athlete, I couldn't imagine like how much you were identified with that at that
That's the
time,
thing.
right? So
That's the thing. It's
like,
the identity of the past, and it's just like, you know, just like a few days ago, I went to the like a track around my neighborhood to do sprints, and I was just reflecting on like my time there. I saw my old coach, and I'm just reflecting on this identity that I had back in the day. And you know, at this point, that was 15 years ago, and it's kind of like for me, it's time to move on. It wasn't, you know, maybe if I was an Olympic athlete, I carry that stuff around. But for these high school and high school level competitive medals and accomplishments, I think it's time to let go. And now that we brought it up, I'm probably gonna do that this week, make it a priority.
okay, man. All right, that's interesting. I like that. That seems like yeah, no, that seems like a big thing. And like I know when you're talking about identity and like one of the things I remember you had a video on this actually about like kind of like losing your old identities and like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
coming up with new ones and stuff. Like how do you like look at the different identity changes since you like came up with your channel and stuff? Like have you noticed a bit?
Yeah, I mean, going from the mindset of feeling like I had to teach to sharing was a big shift. You know, even just your image, like in like back when I started making videos A lot of them are unlisted now. I had longer hair. I didn't have a beard. You know, even just like this image changes, you have to get used to that. Like right now, I'm starting to get grays in my beard. It's like it's a progression and it never stops, right? And so just growing and realizing who I am and what I want, and realizing that everyone has their own complexities in their lives. And the more I create and the more I form a community and then they engage, it allows me to develop more empathy for other people. I start to realize like the impact that there is in sharing your story.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish more people would do that. And because like that's like on my banner, like the core concept to keep in my head is like be the hero of your story. And that's the channel for me is like a journaling of my development towards being the hero of my story, and indirectly trying to encourage other people to do the same, really.
Mm-hmm. And I like that whole like yeah, changing your identity and you become more sharing and empathetic. Like that's exactly what you kind of want. And like when your identity kind of grows and matures, like you want to kind of do that. And like the other thing about identity, and I know you've kind of talked about this a little bit in a couple of your videos, is just like it's interesting like your identity is always changing, it doesn't matter, but like you have to also kind of see like it's this is an important part of like self discovery, is kind of understanding what you identify as a person, as a personality, as maybe your achievements, as what you do every day, as your
Right.
habits. Like this is like such an important part of self discovery, is like understanding all these things that you identify as a person with, and then you can allow to loosen them up a little bit, and
Absolutely.
allow that to change, and new things to enter your identity, which can be more fruitful and more mature and stuff.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, man, I don't know, I've kind of always noticed that, like with you, I think because you talk about like creating a vision as well, like in your life a lot, is and that's one big thing I saw as well, that you talk about. Like, can you maybe talk a little bit about kind of like how you tell people, or how you would like kind of recommend people to like look at creating a vision in their life and the importance of that?
Yeah. So I mean, just kind of starting with myself as an example. When you're coming out of high school and college, and you're getting into your adult working life, so often the societal kind of norm is to work really hard, make money, get a house, you know, build a family. And for me, that was the vision I had back in my like early 20s. And then the past 10 years, I found my shift being away from stability and having a house and having all this money, and prioritizing my own happiness and fulfillment more. And so for me, at this point, I'm big on, like, I'm not religious. I wasn't raised in a traditional, I wasn't raised with a tradition, a typical tradition. So I don't have the experience of having family members really trying to push me in one direction or the other based on those expectations.
Okay.
And in this day and age, you see so many people that are trying to explore outside of the certain standards that they feel has been set for them. And so
Mm-hmm.
for me, whether it's a family thing or it's a society thing in regards to expectations, I just want to, when I'm speaking one-on-one with people, to get them to think about what is it that they want. Forget about the mold. If you could have something, what would it be? If, like, for me, I want to work remotely. I want to be able to live in a new country every 8 to 12 months, and be able to like have a living that will support that lifestyle. Whether it's from my creative pursuits or a traditional income stream. And so it's just about looking within, and again, it's being intentional, self-discovery, asking yourself, like, what do you do? What do you want? But also, more importantly, what don't you want?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. I'm not in a position where I want to be committed to paying off a house for 30 years and remaining in one location. And working a job that I don't really enjoy in order to support that decision. But if
Mm-hmm.
I but if I tweak my goals and my desires here, and recognize I don't need that house, then I don't need to work that job I don't like in order to meet the financial needs. Does that make sense?
That makes a complete sense. I love that a lot. And you know what? Like, especially in our society, how many like of our younger generations, like they rightfully so make like are pretty pissed off about the housing market, and like how it's so hard to
Yeah.
like afford this stuff. So like I love it how you were saying that you tweaked, like that's kind of like a tweak in your identity. If you're a guy who values having a house and having those stuff, the fact that you don't have that will always make you feel insufficient, and like that can bring on insecurities, depression, blah blah blah. But if you can tweak that and be like, hey, you know what's more valuable than having a house and paying off a mortgage that whole time is
Right.
experiences, it's freedom, it's and like all the other stuff you were naming, like just having that tweak to that, like how much yeah, like it just pushes you in a completely different direction. And I think it would be a lot better for your mental health as well, right?
Yeah. And for me, it's just, what are you prioritizing? Stability over your happiness, stability over or your fulfillment. And for me, I'd much rather be happy and fulfilled and be in an unstable situation, not deathly unstable, but unstable relative to what most people expect when they have a house and a consistent job. I want fulfillment. So I don't mind being in a position where I'm in another country and I have to hustle to find maybe like video editing, video creating work, taking on side projects. I'm willing to do that because if I find fulfillment in like the journey I'm on with creating videos, exploring the world, seeing new cultures. And some people are so fearful of getting outside of their comfort zone that stability is the number one, like stability and certainty is their number one priority. And they're sacrificing their happiness, they're sacrificing fulfillment, they're sacrificing trying to discover what their potential is, what their passions are. And
Hmm.
I know it's kind of it's cliche to talk about your passions and like making a living off your passions, but for me, it's less about your passions and more about not regretting. I don't want to 20 years from now look back and say I regret it. I played it easy. I chose stability over happiness. And
Mhm. And honestly, isn't like passions actually a little bit, it's easier in our day and age to actually make money off your passions, or it's easier to find for more fulfillment. And even like how we were talking about, there's less like jobs in like different fields, there's less there's less of that economic safety and like get easy to get a house and all of that shit. So it's almost like it's kind of pushing us as a generation almost to like go into these separate ways, right?
that's the irony. The irony is like it's harder to find stability. Like what the whole work 40 years and then get a pension and then retire, like that's not dependable anymore. So the thing that people are sacrificing their happiness for in search of stability is on the shakiest of foundations here in this decade.
It's crazy. You're right. That is ironic, and I should probably incorporate that into my comedy a little bit more because that has like a little bit of that in there. Man, I like that vision, and like, so you were saying like getting into this whole like discomfort, to like be a little bit more comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Uh,
Exactly. Exactly.
and can I ask you maybe like where like what made you like kind of have this like courage, at least maybe we can call it? Is there stuff that you like? I know for myself, like I did used to do like a few different things, like when it comes to like psychedelics or different kind of like therapy, like cold showers and stuff, like put myself into uncomfortable situations to learn that. Like, did
Right.
you used to do the same at all?
Um, the answer is yes to all those things those examples you just gave, but it wasn't what set me out on that path. I think me going in this direction was completely unintentional because growing up I didn't have a lot of stability. So I've never been used to being stable. So it's maybe not to my credit that I pursue that type of lifestyle because I've growing up I went to like 12 different schools over like a 16-year period. I moved on average once every year. I didn't have those traditional foundations in my life in regards to expectations or religion and traditions, as I kind of mentioned earlier. And so my whole life has always been change, 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 adapt, 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 be the new kid at school every year, developing friends and relationships and having to lead them and develop new friends. Like, so the constant change is something I've been used to. So coming into adulthood and seeing all the things in regards to work and like, marriage and having kids, I questioned it. I started asking why. Why,
Yeah.
like why not go? Why not learn a new language? Why not go to a new country? Why not put off buying a house and use that $500,000 to live off? Like I could retire off $1 million today easily. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, people don't like when I see people that make a lot of money and they go and spend 300 grand on a car. To me, it's just like that could give someone 20 years of freedom. But instead, it's I'm gonna use these items to add to my identity. Like I question all those things. And so yes, I've went through periods of doing cold showers. I've dabbled in psychedelics. I've done like a five-day water fast just to see, just to test myself and see what my potential is. You know, what can I put myself through and come out the other side stronger. And so I'm just finding ways to challenge myself and perform experiences on myself, really.
Hell yeah. And you were saying like you moved around so much when you were younger. What was it like? Your family was always constantly moving around?
I think in hindsight, it's just instability in my family. My dad was never around, and so it was just my mother raising three kids, and so finances become an issue.
Yeah.
Finding work becomes an issue. So sometimes you have to move around to accommodate your immediate needs, and that's probably the biggest factor that led to me doing that. And you know, I don't put any blame on my mother for that, but that was a circumstance, and this was the outcome. And I wouldn't even say it for worse, because it hardened me, right? You know, it
Yeah.
took me my willpower and my understanding about how the world is, because the world is about constantly adapting.
Mm-hmm.
Ages from ages 0 to 18, we have this structure that we're placed within, and just kind of following the path and following the direction. And then when you become an adult, there isn't no direction. You're left in the wild, essentially, and you're having to adapt and try things and taste this and figure out what works and what's safe. And
Hell yeah.
so you know, I appreciate those things that some people would look at and see as an inconvenience.
Mm. You know, I kind of I get that. I think I came from it like from the opposite end almost. Like with my family, I feel like I felt like I might have been like too comfortable coming from like one place for the most part, suburbs, and like I had like the like, all right, you're the East Indian kid, Pakistani, go to medicine, like, go get your science degree, go into medicine, and like everything will be fine. And like yeah, like I had to kind of like come from it from the other thing. I was always so safe. I was always so into like being comfortable. Like that's why I started doing the introducing this like discomfort into my life to
Right.
like break out of that mold. But I like that with you because you moved around so much. You're used to that instability, and that made you question those things probably a little bit earlier than like somebody like I would.
Yeah, I mean, and like, if anyone could choose what path that they're born into, they'll likely choose yours over mine. But looking like now that I'm here, I'm 31 years old. I'm here. I don't envy. I don't envy the people that were raised with luxuries.
Hell yeah.
You know, I always say when I grew up in like government housing in a complex, and so I can go outside at any time, and there's 30 kids of all different backgrounds and ethnicities to play with and interact with. So versus the suburban kid that when they go outside, it's just whoever, like that one kid on the street, and they're restricted to their little one house. Whereas I had a whole complex to mingle it with and adapt to like different religions, different cultures. You go into one person's house, they're Russian family. Go into another house, they're Jamaican, they're Indian, they're Laos. And so I wouldn't trade my childhood for anything because it was fun.
Mm-hmm. And like honestly, I think this is like the whole point of the like this kind of self-discovery thing is like you have your own past and you have to accept it. It doesn't matter who you are. Like
Right.
you have to accept your own past because like it's just yeah, like well, you know, the whole fucking cliche, like it's never gonna change, all that shit. Like it isn't
Right.
gonna change, but like it is like every part of your past, like it'll parts of it's gonna give you privileges or like something that's lucky, and other parts are gonna like be hindrances as well. So like everybody's different and everybody has both like kind of sides of the coin to it, and like the whole journey of self-discovery is to be able to kind of see where like you might be lacking. Like for myself, like I said, I was really bad at putting myself in uncomfortable positions, so I had to learn to
Right.
do that, and I had to break out of that mold, which for me was very difficult at the time. But like
Right.
that was my own personal thing, which might have been a little bit easier for yourself.
Yeah. And so like there's that kind of cliche saying like if you can't change something, change the way you think about it. And so regardless of what someone's upbringing is, there's always a seed of positivity in a negative situation. And so maybe me reflecting on this and saying I wouldn't change my childhood is a way of finding that positive in a negative situation. But everyone's life, I don't, it doesn't matter if you're at one extreme or the other, there's something positive in your situation, whether it's knowing that you had stability so you could take chances, or whether it's just being put through the mud and you can come out and you're stronger. Like there's always a perspective shift in any situation that can be applied.
Yeah, and no, and that's one thing I talk about on this podcast a lot, and with like different guests, and it's that is a big thing. It's always being able to look at a situation in a proper way, and yeah, and so when it comes to like the self-discovery part of this, like actually learning these stuff about it, like I'm trying to wonder like what other kind of exercises do you do? Like, do you journal at all? Like, is this something that you're into?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on and off. There might be a 6 month period where now I journal, but it wasn't like daily journaling. What
Mm-hmm.
I did is because I don't like, some days you just journal and it's just like I woke up, I went to work for 8 hours, went to the gym. Like there's nothing really going on there. So for me, for quite a while, I was journaling anything that I viewed as significant or out of the ordinary in my life.
Hell yeah.
Something as small as having a conversation at the grocery store with the person serving you, to something big like being invited on a podcast, right? Little
Yeah.
things like they might seem insignificant in the moment, but it's great to look back on. And so I have a journal of maybe 3 years of just like every page is something that's different from what's normal.
Hell
And
yeah.
I think that helps me to like remember. Like it allows my experiences to kind of be elongated, because if you're doing the same thing every day for 2 weeks, a few months later you reflect back on that, it's just a blur.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're noticing, you're taking time to acknowledge every little thing that's different, all of a sudden, like the detail in your reflection is far more vast.
And yeah, and plus you like learn about yourself because I do similar, very similar journaling to you. Like with me, I mostly like if something's a very like emotional response, like if I
Yeah,
give out an emotional response to something, I
yeah,
want to write that down. So I might go a few days not writing anything down, but then something gives me an emotional response, and it might just be a conversation like at the grocery store, like you said. But
yeah,
whatever it is, you write it down, and like yeah, when like you said, it gives you elongated memory, but you can always look back at like all your different things you're writing down. You notice patterns, you start actually learning about yourself, and like kind of learning about like what actually naturally gets you giving you like an emotional response, right? And that's kind
right.
of how like it's that's actually like with the self discovery thing, kind of like where you can find where your real passions are, like what naturally like lets that passion flow.
Yeah, and you know what? I can't remember where I heard it from, but it was just a few months ago. I heard someone say, like, where there's emotion, there's story. And
Mm.
it's like whenever you have an emotion flare up, there's a story there. And
Mm-hmm.
like that helps me, because if I get really mad, like what's the story that's there? If I'm really happy, what's the story there? And that's kind of what I journal about. Whatever that story is attached to that emotion, whether it's happy, sad, grieving, depressed, there's a story there of some type, and I found it useful.
Hell yeah. I love that. I never heard that before, wherever there's an
Reflect on
emotion.
it, man. The more you think about it, the more insightful it becomes. And I wish I
Hmm.
remember where I heard that, but I value it.
Honestly, like like one of the big like kind of things in my life for the last like decade has been like learning to like understand my emotions and feelings and stuff like that. That's why a lot of like psychedelics and meditation have always like really
Right.
helped, right? But um and like as a comedian, I do have to like kind of like feel like understand my feelings, because that's where I find like some of the funniest shit. It's like
Right.
when I have a feeling that's like a legit feeling, and like I can be like, oh, there's like the joke, like I know this feeling, and I know if I can tell this properly to an audience, they'll recognize that feeling too, and then that can
Right.
be a really good joke. So, but this is for everybody. Like you really like it's so beneficial to like really understand like your feelings, your emotions, and like yeah, like you said, the memories as well. Because if you don't catalog, or if you don't document, like 2 months, so you can kind of look back like, what the fuck did I do for the last 2 months?
No, man, 20, every now and then when I get a chance, I value talking to older people, right? People in their 60s, 70s, because like they went through the same complexities of life that you've been on. And when you talk to somebody that all they reflect on is regret from their past 20 years, it just went by. I didn't do anything significant. As kind of a quote unquote negative of a situation that is, it's so beneficial to be the one in the receiving end hearing that, because it helps you reflect and be like, man, I don't want to go the next 20 years and not have anything significant or worthwhile to reflect back on. I don't want to be on my deathbed and realizing I haven't done anything that was for me. And so, yeah, I don't know what you said that keep me off in that thought process, but yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I mean, man, and no, I agree with that completely. All right, I want to. You said water fast a couple times, and I had a
Yeah,
friend who just did this, and it sounds like pretty damn intense. But I have to admit, when I saw him after this water fast, he was glowing, and he looked the best he's ever looked, probably ever.
yeah,
Um, so what is a water fast, and what was your experience with it?
yeah. So a water fast is as simple as that. It's just fasting, so just not consuming anything but water. So I guess the rule of thumb is to anything that has calories, you don't consume it. And so for 5 days, I just drank water, didn't eat anything, didn't put anything in my mouth, brush
Five
my teeth.
days.
That's it. Yeah.
5 days.
Yeah. It was usually,
Holy
so I
shit.
documented that because I thought it was very important to. So I do have a video documenting like every day, just like this is how I'm feeling. This is what my mind's doing. So it's to this day my most viewed video, which was a complete shock to me because I think at this point it's like 200,000 views, and it's one of those things where me telling my story and just sharing has inspired thousands of people. And to this day, I think this was 2 years ago. To this day, I'm still getting messages from people saying like, "I just finished the 5 day. I couldn't believe it. Like if it wasn't for your video, I would have never done that." And it's an experience that they can reference for the rest of their life, because it's like when I thought I couldn't do 2 days, or I thought I couldn't do 24 hours, I did 5 days. So I mean, I forget what even got me to do that, but I think I just wanted to challenge myself, and I must have saw somebody do it. I lost 16 pounds in 5 days.
Jesus.
The most impressive thing about it is that at the end of 5 days, like after day 3, I think is the hardest. Day 4 and 5, I could have continued for another 3 days if I set my goal to be that.
Yeah, it was pretty like day 3 and 5 or 4 and 5 were like pretty easy then.
It's just normal. Like your body, your mind,
The hunger pains is gone.
adapt. Yeah, and if it does come, it comes for like literally 20 minutes and then it goes away. But the problem is we get hungry and we think, oh, like my body needs food and it's gonna remain like that until I get food. It's like no, it comes there. It's a signal to let you know like you should probably eat. But then when you don't eat, you get to the point where your body's like, okay, this is what we're doing. We're not eating. Okay, let me change my mode I'm in, and that's when your body goes into like a state of ketosis,
Yep.
where it utilizes your fat stores for energy.
Yeah.
That's why like people think like how do you lose 16 pounds in 5 days? It's like, well, it's mostly fat. It's mostly fat and water.
So people who are doing like water fast, is it mostly for a losing weight kind of thing, or is there other reasons as well? Like I guess the reason of like actually doing it, like doing 5 days and like the mental toughness, I think I 100% see that as a reason. But for the most reasons, like are most people doing it to lose weight, or what are other reasons?
I think most people that like were commenting on my videos, their motivation was to lose weight. But for me, it was to challenge myself. It's mental toughness, and it's also a form of meditation, because our whole day is often centered around food. We're thinking about what to buy, what to get groceries for. We're prepping the food, we're eating the food, we're cleaning our dishes after the food, we're relaxing from eating so much. And so when you don't have that, it's amazing how much time you have in your day. When I'm working, when I have like an hour like lunch break, for example, what do? Usually when I'm eating, I go home and I'll watch like NBA highlights. I wasn't able to watch the things I usually watch because I wasn't eating. So it changes your habits, and it's a meditation because you're constantly thinking about food and you're having to resist it. It's like having thoughts constantly popping into your mind, and like you're recognizing, you're acknowledging it, and you're acknowledging it, and then you're letting it go. And it's the same thing with the food. So it develops mental strength and fortitude, and that was my reason for going into it.
Yeah, and like I've done like day fasting, and like I've just like as a Muslim, like I've done some Ramadan fasting as well. So like I know that, but like I know 5 days is a completely different beast. But there is a thing when your whole body is empty of food, and like there is like a time where it does feel like you're completely aware, like your awareness, your energy levels kind of go up too, because
your alertness.
Alertness,
and that's
it. Yeah.
A lot of people, another reason people do it is as a cleanse. When your body isn't having to put all this energy into breaking. I just want to put a disclaimer. I'm not a medical professional, so like just take everything I say with a grain of salt. But when you're going through the cleanse and your body's not using all its energy to break down food, it can start putting its attention to less important things. So if you have, like, some people do it and it helps with, like, injuries. Like, I had a back problem. I had a severe back problem at the time, so I was doing it for that. And it just, whether it's true or not, the science, like, it's such a new thing that, like, science is just getting to the point where they're realizing the benefits of intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sooner or later they'll get to water fasting, to where it's like doing 1 or 2 long, 3, 4, 5 day fasts is great from a physiological point of view, not just a mental. And so, that was another reason I was doing it, just to give your body, like, I've done cleanses throughout my life. So you can people are familiar with, like, juice cleanses, and, like, the master cleanses, where you're basically just drinking a certain concoction for like 5 days straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it lets your body heal. It's almost like a meditation practice for your body, where it's just everything, all the noise is cut out from eating and consuming and breaking it down and spitting it out. So I don't know, I valued it a lot, and I found myself doing like 3-day fasts a couple times a year still.
That is very interesting. So like on day 4 and 5, where was your, like, because you said that was easy, like, where was your alertness at that point? Like, was there mental fatigue or body fatigue there, or were you actually more alert and more energetic?
Like, in my subjective view, I felt energetic. Who knows? I didn't work out. Like, I didn't run. I didn't do any things that I typically do. But, like, a sense of normality comes by. Like, your body just adapts. It accepts what you're doing, and all of a sudden, like you spent 3 or 4 days rejecting all these thoughts about food. So day 4 and 5 comes, and all of a sudden, whatever you intend, you're able to focus on that thing. Day 1, 2, and 3, it's very, there's somewhat of a primitive reaction, where it's just like, just the smell of food causes your mouth to start salivating. Your heartbeat starts going like crazy. I talk about this in the video. Like, I was walking around and I smelled food in this office I was working at, and my heart started beating, and you feel like you're a wolf seeing your prey, and you start, like, your body starts getting ready to attack.
Yeah, you become a hunter again, eh?
Yeah, very much. Like, you feel the physiological effects of, like, going for a long time without food and seeing food, and it's just like, attack, go for that.
I
weird,
love
man.
that.
Weird.
Yeah, you start getting all your animal instincts back.
Seriously, yeah.
Hey, when I like, so what I used to do, like, or like, yeah, when I do ayahuasca retreats and stuff like that, they make us do a very special lightweight diet, and then we do fasting like the day before a ceremony and everything. But yeah, like, it's kind of funny because, like, the way the, like, indigenous people look at it when they talk about fasting and, like, not eating like heavy foods before these things, it's like they talk a lot about what you're saying is letting your body relax and making it more sensitive, so that you can actually feel like the inner, like, drives of your body, like the inner, like, and like hunger being one of them. But, like, think about the multiplicity of, like, drives and instincts and stuff that we have in our body, and our body has the ability to do. Like, you have to, like, this is why food, when you have heavy food, your body's working on that, so you're not really, don't have those instincts and stuff anymore, those drives, or you don't have the ability to be aware and alert of them. So, like, this is a big part of the reason, like, why the indigenous people say fast before these ceremonies. So I can just 100% understand that when you're doing like a 5-day fast like this, how, like, those things all of a sudden get heightened.
Yeah, and I've read that, because I've not had an opportunity to participate in an ayahuasca ceremony, but I've done a hell of a lot of reading and like, understanding about it, and I do recall them saying that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've always liked that. And there was one video that I didn't get to on your site yet. It was but I did see it. It was talking about you were writing down all your insecurities and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. So what made you kind of want to do this?
It's another personal challenge, where it's just like getting rid of all the ego, man. There's so many things that we are attached to, our insecurities, and it affects so many parts of my life, in our lives. And it's one thing to acknowledge the insecurity, it's another to deal with it and overcome it. And then being willing to openly talk about it is kind of like the final stage for me. And so I thought, if I can put myself through being aware and considering all my insecurities and actually like looking it in the face, and then making a video discussing that and sharing it with the world, that's kind of the final frontier of those insecurities. And so for me, I don't remember the list. I think there's like 10 of them, but like
That's how.
going,
That's awesome. You got fucking rid of them. That it worked.
yeah, man. I mean, like going bald, man. That was a big insecurity because for me, like having long hair and having different styles was a huge thing for me. Having different variation of braids, having it on a ponytail, etc. And then when you start balding, it's like you're seeing age and time and the passing and the kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to say downturn of our life, but like you feel like you're past your prime and you're fighting with what was your self-identity previously and what it's becoming. And like it's by far and I say this, people don't believe it, but it was by far the most stressful period of my life is going through hair loss. And so being able to talk about it openly, even just in this kind of format, is something that I wouldn't have been able to do just 4 years ago.
Damn. All right. Well, hey, man. No, I can understand that. Like, that kind of those kind of insecurities. Like, you want to kind of recognize that too, and like, I can understand like sharing them with the world. That can be like such a weight off of you, where you're just like, all right, they're fucking like it's out there now, and like it's out there, right?
Yeah, and like, and my hope was that, in that my hope is that it continues to be that people will watch that and it will kind of give them permission to look at their own insecurities in the face, and instead of trying to address them by like hiding them, or like, because for me it's like right now I broke my nose like a year and a half ago, so my nose is like slightly bent to the right, and I was like, man, do I go get like surgery done? And I was questioning it, and then as time goes by and you just accept it, it's like, man, it's such a small insignificant part of our life, the way we look, you know, like my smile, like getting grays in my hair, like all these little things that it means nothing to nobody. You know, like no one's sitting there watching you and like spending hours reflecting on how you look, or these little things that we micro analyze about ourselves. And so I just focused on letting go of those things that I was insecure about, so I can focus on the most important things in life. And you know, how I smile isn't among the most important ones.
Mm-hmm. And hey, like, and it seems like now you have a vision, like, so you're talking about you want to be able to travel around and like you do your job and see other cultures and like be able to kind of have that kind of freedom in your life. So like, this is kind of your vision. Do you have an idea of like where you want to go next?
Like I've kind of tested the experience by doing like 2 or 3 week backpacking trips in various countries prior to the whole last year situation.
Yeah.
So I think it's, me and my partner are gonna have to kind of come together and figure out what works best for both of us. But I can see myself. I backpacked in Thailand, and I think that might be a great place just because the quality of living compared to the cost of living and compared to the conveniences and the differences in like different regions versus like from the north to the south to Bangkok in the kind of central Thailand. It has a great balance of all the things that you would need, and it doesn't require a lot of money to do that. So it'll probably be there first to get my kind of foundation set and continue developing different streams of incomes. But from there, man, I don't know. I want to go through Europe a little bit. I would love to go to Africa, different countries there. South America, I want to get fluent in Spanish. So there's a lot of options to think about.
And I love that, and I hope like just listening to you say that, I hope other people get inspired to like understand like we do live in a world where this kind of stuff is becoming like more allowed. Like a lot of people are doing it. Like you were saying, like sometimes you can just edit videos, but you also have your channel, you also have other things, but you can edit videos for other people too. So like it's true, like there's so much different streams of income that you can have now, that this is a kind of life that's doable, and like
it's so possible.
And so how possible. Cool is that?
You can there's websites where you can get paid like $12 an hour to just speak English to people that are trying to learn English. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't require any type of certification or education, just being a fluent speaker in English. And some people might hear that and think $12 an hour. Like I need $50,000 a year to live off of right now. But in places like Thailand, where you can get a condo for $400 and a meal at a restaurant costs $1.50 in like US dollars, if you can make $12 an hour, like you're living better than the majority of people in that country.
Yep. Hell yeah. And no, and actually I've like when I've been traveling, I think I've seen a lot of people who did that exact same thing. They taught English online, and like it's yeah, it is just crazy like the type of opportunity we have. And the one thing I do like, because we're both in our early 30s, so we're both like millennials, like right in the middle of
Right? Yeah, yeah.
millennial. And yeah, like I was talking about this with another guest on my latest episode, and we were kind of just talking about with like the millennials right now as a generation. I feel like we're very kind of pessimistic about our future. We're very, and like like I was saying, like stuff with this housing crisis and like where the jobs are at and like how wages haven't kept up with like the cost of living. Like all of
Yeah,
this is very true stuff, and like it's shitty problems to have. But while that's all there, we do have this other thing where like the ability to create kind of a life where we're happy and our happiness is like front and center is like better than it's probably ever been.
exactly. And that's where the whole, like, if you can't change the thing, change the way you think about it. Like a positivity that can come from that seemingly negative situation. It's like if there's ever an opportunity in life to forego buying a house and save and invest and live off, like let your money work for you and go travel, is now. When $800,000 house is the average in some of these cities, and the idea of owning a car is a little irrelevant if you're living in a place that's condensed and has public transportation, and where job stability isn't as secure as it used to be. So it's like, what better chance is there than now to go and pursue your dreams, to pursue the unknown and go travel, go see the world. And you never, like, if I've learned anything, it's that you never know where an opportunity is going to come from.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just taken that, and it comes down to what we were talking about earlier with regret. It's easy to get into a situation where you have these golden handcuffs, where you find an opportunity and you're making a lot of money, but you're in a situation you don't like, but the money's so good you can't say no, and you regret those times when you were 30 or 35 and you could have traveled because you didn't have those um those change holding you to a certain location or holding you to a certain circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. Like, no, I think that's a really positive message, man. I really like that, and I hope that definitely inspires a lot of people who are listening right now because, um, yeah, that's the one thing. Like, we did go through, like us, we did went through the financial crisis 10 years ago. Now we went through this
Right.
pandemic, so like I completely understand like where all this pessimism and like kind of anger for the future and like with climate change and shit like that too. Like, there's a
Right.
lot of that which is completely on like yeah, no, I understand it. I have
Justified.
a
It's
lot of
justified for sure. But it's
yeah,
like, it's
justified.
justified, but don't dwell on it. Don't get complacent. Don't get discouraged and low energy. Like, use that as motivation to fire you up to pursue whatever your alternative is.
Fuck yeah. Nah, I love that. All right, Adrian, you have been so much fun on this, man. I only got one more question. It's the question of the podcast, so I'll give it to you. But
Yes.
Adrian Logan, God yay or nay?
All right. Well, let me preface this by saying, okay, yay. Let me say yes to that. But I don't view God in the traditional sense. But if we can adjust it to be like infinite intelligence, the kind of unknown, um, the great mystery that's beyond our understanding, absolutely. I don't have a structured religion that I'm a part of. I don't really subscribe to anything or faith that I've come across, but I undoubtedly believe in something greater beyond us, like greater intelligence, a greater consciousness, something that we will never understand in this lifetime. And then that's part of the journey. Is like part of the journey of self-discovery is understanding the God in us and around us. So that's a big yay.
Yeah, man. And because you were saying like you never really had any traditional structure, whether it came to like religion or anything when you were growing
Right.
up. Um, did your parents ever like, or your mom like ever give you anything, or did she talk about that at all, or was it more of just like something she never really talked about?
So my mom wasn't raised with a religion per se either. Her kind of ancestors come from a Mennonite background, which never made it anywhere near my mom's generation. She had converted to, she was a Muslim for about 10 years. So I was surrounded by that culture and community in my earlier years. So when I was like in grade 4, it was normal for me to do like to fast during Ramadan
Oh,
with
okay.
the community that we were a part of. But it's not like I subscribed to the religion. I was just exposed to the religion, which was a great opportunity. But it wasn't influenced or pushed upon me. So one of the great things that I take away from my upbringing is that because I didn't have any of those pressures, it allowed me to be free and to wander and to question. And I think that has a big part of why I am the way I am today.
No, I love that. And dude, like yeah, like you said, like being able to have that, like being free and like looking and curious and wondering and all of that stuff, like that is one of the best things that because as a children we have that naturally, and like a lot of us lose that when we get structure forced upon us. And
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
so like yeah, I can understand like having that as like coming up as a young age, how like beneficial that could have been for you.
Yeah, it was huge. And like it's one of those things where you see parents and families where they're so isolated and they're so sheltered, and the intent of that, as great as positive as it was, and it ends up being the very reason that that child grows up and completely goes the other way, and they're grabbing at everything, they're trying to experience everything, and they go down a direction that maybe was never intended for them. Because like if you're trying to train to be a fighter and you're never in a sparring match, when you get in the ring, what are you going to do? And it's the same
Hmm.
thing when you're growing up. If I had children, which I don't intend to, but if I did, I would want them, like I wouldn't tell them not to touch the fire. I'd let them touch the fire because you only
Hmm.
got to do it one time, right? And so
Yeah.
for me, growing up, I got an opportunity to touch the figurative fires a lot, and it allowed me to to understand myself and be much more aware, I think, as an adult.
Yep. Nope. I've seen that directly with like a lot of my friends who've had like different backgrounds and how a lot of us grew up. Because like I think that was a big part of me taking a lot longer for me myself to mature compared to a few of my friends who, like you said, figured to touch that figurative fire
Right.
a lot more than I did, and like they actually grew a lot more because of that. And yeah, man, that's at the end of the day, that's life. I'd like, hey, man, like, whatever the fucking world is, wherever it's going, like, yeah, it's like life is always gonna be kind of like that. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be like you're always gonna have to take chances in it. And yeah, no, I love the message you're doing, man. So I hope you keep it up. And
Appreciate
please,
it.
yeah, please let my audience know, man. Like Adrian Logan on YouTube. Please check it out. That's a fucking awesome channel. Go subscribe to it. Check out his videos. It's so much fun. Anything else you want to promote or say anything about, man?
No, nothing to promote, man. Just the same message, man, for everyone just to continue acknowledging their feelings and their desires, and try to play big in life and be the hero of your story, and not play the extra in your
Mm,
story. You know, I kind of hesitate to say this, but consider being a little bit more selfish in the sense of identifying what you want and making yourself a priority. That's kind of what self-care and self-love is about. But a lot of times we we act in a way that we perceive as being selfless, and it not only does damage to yourself, but the people you're trying to help, the people that you're trying to be selfless towards. So yeah,
yeah,
self-discovery.
and that's true. Like that's another ironic part of it is like you have to be selfish to be like a good at being selfless, right?
And I just want to end by saying, like, I've thought about this, and this is probably the topic of a future video. And it's just that anyone in the world, if you think about who your idol is, or who motivates you, or who inspires you, you can be sure that they went after their sincere selfishness, and in doing so, it manifested itself in giving a tremendous amount of value to the world. And
Mm.
so, selfish doesn't have to be a bad word. And I kind of want to change the perspective on that. And I think I'll have it more better articulated in a future video.
Awesome. All right, guys. Adrian Logan on YouTube. Check it out. Thanks so much for joining me, Adrian.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.